The next theme that emerged from the questions that we were sent related loosely to the idea of disclosure. We had questions like, what do I do if someone tells me they're autistic? How do you know if someone's autistic? What should I say, when autism comes up? All of these types of questions. Jean-Julien, pouvez-vous partager votre point de vue?
Oui. Moi, ça m'appelle d'autres questions. Quand j'ai eu mon diagnostic, personne ne croyait que c'était vrai, parce qu'on dit, ben t'as pas l'air autiste, tu regardes les gens dans les yeux, tu parles, t'es fonctionnel. Et ça m'a vraiment permis de me rendre compte que c'était difficile pour bien des personnes autistes d'exprimer ce que pouvait être leur réalité autistique. Et donc, je pense que c'est aussi par la variété des expressions issues des personnes autistes qu'on arrive à comprendre qu'une personne autiste est singulière et unique. Mais qu'il faut vraiment casser beaucoup de biais, beaucoup de préjugés qui sont véhiculés par la télévision, les séries, le cinéma. Malheureusement, on trouve beaucoup d'images qui sont juste une illustration de ce que peut être une personne autiste et pas une généralisation de ce qu'est une personne autiste. Donc, je pense que l'idée, c'est vraiment d'en parler, de poser des questions. Sans jugement, ce qui est très difficile en 2024 d'émettre une opinion sans porter un jugement, mais le bénéfice est que ça favorise une écoute et ça nous change un peu de mode parce que souvent on veut proposer des réponses, on veut tout de suite aller vers une solution, mais en fait on n'est pas malade quand on est autiste. On est juste né comme ça, puis c'est pas quelque chose qu'on transmet, qu'on donne à quelqu'un d'autre en éternuant. C'est juste une façon de percevoir le monde qui est peut-être un petit peu moins standard que la majeure partie du monde qui nous entoure. Donc en fait, c'est une opportunité, une richesse aussi de voir ça. Donc c'est un combat permanent, je dirais, d'avoir ces discussions-là, mais en même temps, c'est très rigolo. Moi, j'essaie toujours de mettre ça sous le signe de l'humour, en disant, décris-moi une personne autiste. Et souvent, les personnes sont même mal prises en disant, en fait, oui, quand j'y pense, je ne saurais pas comment décrire une personne autiste ou c'est très limité la vision que j'en ai. Donc, je vois ça plutôt comme une opportunité pour une personne autiste aussi d'exprimer sa réalité qui peut être différente d'une autre personne autiste aussi. Et donc, ces messages complémentaires vont pouvoir aider à plus de personnes autistes d'exprimer leur réalité autistique au niveau de la société.
Thank you. Tonie, Jean-Julien has just spoken quite a bit about the idea of this being an opportunity to really ask questions, gain information, try to understand the autistic experience. Can you touch on some of these other questions that have been raised?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, I guess first of all, I'll say you don't know if someone's autistic unless they tell you. To really just directly answer, how do I know if someone's autistic? And I think with that, I just want to say that, there's two autistic people that we're listening to right now, myself and Jean-Julien, who are incredibly different. And everything we do is incredibly different, despite the fact that both of us are autistic. And so I think in interacting with folks, we really can't make assumptions. And I think that's sort of the most, is I think a really, really important takeaway for me here. But then I think when somebody does tell you they're autistic, how do you respond? how do you react? And that tends to be something, especially in sort of the employment setting, can make folks quite anxious, and can make folks quite uncomfortable. But I will also go as far to say, like, I was diagnosed about 1.5 years ago, and it's also been it's terribly complicated sometimes sharing your reality with even people in your personal life. So it's an incredibly sort of complicated experience that everyone sort of goes through, or I should say every person that's, you know, thinking about whether I should share or whether I shouldn't share, are really going through a sort of a risk assessment of their personal risk, and to see if that's, you know, where they can be open or where they can't be. And where that comes into an employment setting really comes down to, you know, relationships that you have in your workplace, you know, maybe psychological safety we talk about a lot, you know, and if you sort of feel safe enough to do so. So if you do feel safe enough to do so, and you happen to, you know, tell your manager, tell a colleague that, hey, I'm autistic, I can tell you a couple things that maybe are not the correct thing to say, or maybe aren't the best thing to say, and have certainly been said to me. The first one was, but you don't look autistic. And I'm still unpacking what that means, because I'm not sure what it means to look autistic. I'm sure I can take some guesses, but that, you know, that's one of them. Another one is, oh, I'm so sorry. When truthfully, it was a celebration for me to be able to understand my experience and understand why, you know, my brain worked the way it did and why I experienced the world the way I did. But, you know, having someone sort of respond to you in a very well-intentioned, like, I'm so sorry, you know, is not necessarily a neutral approach or a supportive approach. Another one, you're so brave. You know, sort of things around that, you know, we typically wouldn't say to somebody else sharing parts of their identity. Like if I say hi, I'm South Asian, I don't think the response would be, you're so brave, or I'm so sorry. I think we know socially that that's inappropriate. And so, you know, we're really at Auticon, we talk a lot about kind of extending these identities to that. And, you know, how would you respond if somebody shared something else like that with you, you know, another part of their identity? And I think what, you know, Jean-Julien was speaking about, of really asking questions to understand, is incredibly important. I realize I'm bouncing around a little bit. It's the joys of a neurodivergent mind, but, you know, sort of the idea of, if somebody's telling you this, why may they be telling you this? And is there a reason they're telling you this? Is it because, oh, I just want you to know that I know this thing about me? Or is it because I want you to know that I have some communication differences and this will help us work better together? It's usually the latter, but often it's taken in other ways. And so when we're responding to someone sharing something quite personal and something that likely involved a risk assessment, sort of thinking about that perspective and thinking about, you know, thinking about it as an opportunity. I think I'll go back to Jean-Julien's words of really getting to know someone better and understanding how you can improve your own relationship and engagement with that person. I went a little off track, Ali, but I hope I touched on.
Super helpful, important information. I think as a follow-up question to either of you, given this question actually came up quite a few times, how do I know if someone's autistic? And the reality that both of you have expressed, which is you don't and you won't unless you're making assumptions, which you should probably avoid.